I've decided to start a new life without you." The words hung in the air of the upscale restaurant where we'd gathered to celebrate my daughter's 21st birthday. Marcus, my husband of 25 years, stood with his champagne glass still raised, his announcement displacing the toast he was supposed to be making to Sophia's special day. The clinking of silverware ceased. Conversations halted mid-sentence. 40 pairs of eyes darted between Marcus and me, waiting for my reaction for the tears, the shouting, the dramatic exit everyone expected. Instead, I smiled. "Congratulations on your honesty. My name is Evelyn Sinclair. I am 52 years old, and until this moment I had been playing the role of devoted wife and mother perfectly. I'd put my own career aspirations on hold to support Marcus through 2 failed business ventures and what felt like endless finding himself phases. I'd raised our brilliant daughter Sophia, who sat beside me now, her birthday tiara slightly askew, her expression frozen in shock. From the corner of my eye, I could see Natalia Vega, Marcus's much younger girlfriend, shifting uncomfortably at the back table, where she sat with people I'd considered friends for 20 years. The same friends who apparently knew about the affair but never thought to tell me. The same Natalia who had attended our family vacations, who had once cried on my shoulder about her difficult childhood. With practiced calm, I reached into my clutch and pulled out a sealed ivory envelope. I placed it gently beside Marcus's plate. "What's this?" he asked, his triumphant expression faltering. "Something for you to read later," I replied, keeping my voice steady. I turned to Sophia, whose face had gone pale. I kissed her cheek. "I'm so proud of the woman you've become, sweetheart. This day is still about you." Then I stood, smoothed my dress, and addressed our stunned guests. "Please enjoy the celebration. I wish you all a wonderful evening." With that, I walked out of the restaurant, my head held high, feeling 40 pairs of eyes following me. The heavy door swung shut behind me, cutting off the beginning of anxious murmurs. Outside, the summer heat hit me like a wall, but I welcomed it. For the first time in years, I could breathe freely. Behind me, the restaurant door burst open. "Evelyn," Marcus's voice was no longer confident but high-pitched and frantic. "What the hell is this? What have you done?" I kept walking, allowing myself a small smile. The envelope I'd handed him contained the beginning of my revenge one. I'd been meticulously planning for months. I had always been the practical one in our marriage. While Marcus dreamed big and took risks, I maintained the stability our family needed. I was the one who saved for Sophia's education when Marcus invested wisely in his friend's tech startup. I was the one who worked extra hours as a financial consultant when his midlife crisis led him to quit his stable job to pursue photography, a passion that lasted exactly 8 months before he grew bored. My own dreams of opening a boutique investment firm for women were perpetually on hold. After Sophia graduates, I told myself. After Marcus finds stability, 3 months ago, I noticed discrepancies in our joint accounts, small transfers to an account I didn't recognize. Having spent 2 decades managing our family finances, these irregularities stood out like red flags. I could have confronted Marcus immediately, but something held me back. Instead, I began quietly investigating. What I discovered was worse than I imagined. Marcus had been systematically moving funds to a separate account for over a year. He'd taken Natalia to Paris, bought her jewelry, and was looking at beachfront property, all while telling me we needed to cut back for retirement. Then came the text messages I discovered when Marcus left his phone unlocked. Messages about their new life together. Messages about how he was finally breaking free. Messages about their plans for the day after Sophia's birthday, the day he'd chosen to make his grand exit. What Marcus had forgotten, or perhaps never fully grasped, was that I'd been a financial analyst for 28 years. I understood money trails. I knew how to trace assets. And most importantly, I remembered the prenuptial agreement we'd signed 25 years ago, the one he'd insisted upon to protect his future earnings, which contained a fidelity clause that would prove to be his undoing. While Marcus plotted his escape with Natalia, I was building my case. I consulted with attorneys. I documented every hidden transfer. I gathered evidence of their affair. I prepared divorce papers. I timed everything perfectly, knowing Marcus would wait until after Sophia's birthday to avoid ruining her celebration. What he didn't expect was that I would serve the divorce papers the morning of the party, before his planned announcement. The papers were still safely filed in court records, not yet accessible to him. I didn't return to the restaurant. Instead, I Drove to our home, a beautiful brownstone in the city that we'd bought 12 years ago. The house Marcus had already promised to Natalia. According to messages he didn't realize I'd seen, everything looked the same: the family photos in the hallway, the antique clock we'd bought on our 10th anniversary, the leather sofa where Marcus and I had once cuddled while watching old movies. Yet everything had changed. Upstairs, Marcus's suitcases were already packed and hidden in the back of the closet, ready for his planned departure tomorrow. I smiled at his predictability. He'd always been meticulous about appearances but careless about the important things. My phone buzzed incessantly with messages from friends at the restaurant, from Sophia, even from Marcus's brother Lucas, who had flown in for the birthday. I responded only to my daughter, "I'm okay. This isn't your burden to carry. Enjoy your birthday. We'll talk tonight. I love you." I had protected Sophia from the truth for months, not wanting to overshadow her special year with family drama. She would be angry that I hadn't told her, but I knew she would understand eventually. Sophia had inherited my pragmatism along with her father's charm, a powerful combination. 3 hours later, I heard Marcus's car in the driveway. The front door slammed open. "Evelyn," he shouted, his voice echoing through our home. "Where are you?" I was sitting in the living room, calmly reviewing documents on my laptop. I closed it as he stormed in, his face flushed with anger, the envelope clutched in his hand. "What is the meaning of this?" he demanded, waving the papers. "You served me with divorce papers today? Of all days?" "I thought it aligned nicely with your plans," I replied calmly. "You wanted to start your new life. I'm simply helping facilitate the transition. You had no right." "I had every right," I said, my voice steady. "Just as you had every right to choose Natalia." "We all make choices, Marcus. The prenup expired years ago," he said, his voice suddenly smug. "Any lawyer will tell you that." I allowed myself a small smile. "Actually, it didn't. Section 14 specifically states that the fidelity clause remains in effect for the duration of the marriage. Your lawyer should have explained that to you." "Oh wait, you didn't consult one, did you?" The color drained from his face as reality sank in. The prenup he had insisted upon to protect his potential wealth would now cost him everything: our home, the vacation property in the Hamptons, his portion of our retirement accounts. His grand gesture at the restaurant had just become the most expensive announcement of his life. "You can't do this to me," Marcus said, collapsing onto the couch. "We built this life together," I replied. "And you chose to end it, though not in the way you planned." Marcus's phone buzzed persistently in his pocket. He glanced at it, then ignored it. Natalia, no doubt wondering where he was and why he wasn't following their carefully orchestrated plan. "You've always been calculating, Evelyn," he said, trying a different approach. "But this is cold. What about our history? 25 years together means nothing?" I studied him, this man I had loved for a quarter century, the man who had held me through my mother's death, who had cheered loudly at every one of Sophia's school plays. When had he changed? Or had he always been this person, and I'd been too devoted to notice? "Our history meant everything to me," I answered truthfully. "That's why your betrayal hurt so deeply." His expression softened momentarily, perhaps seeing an opening. "Then maybe we can fix this. I made a mistake." "People make mistakes. This wasn't a mistake, Marcus," I said. "This was a calculated plan spanning more than a year. You systematically moved our money. You looked at property with her. You planned to announce our separation publicly to humiliate me." His face hardened again. "You're exaggerating." "Am I?" I picked up my phone, opened the recording app, and played his own voice. "After the birthday party, I'll tell her it's over. A public setting is better. She won't make a scene in front of everyone." Then Natalia's voice. "And she has no idea about the money?" Marcus again. "None. Evelyn trusts me completely." "That's her weakness." The blood drained from his face. "You recorded our conversations?" "That's illegal." "Not in New York when one party consents," I responded. "And not when it's in your own home." "I didn't record your private moments with Natalia. I'm not cruel. Just the conversations about your plans to defraud me." Marcus stood suddenly agitated. "I need to make some calls, of course," I said. "Your attorney might be a good start. I'll be staying at Lucas's tonight." "Lucas's?" he sputtered. "My brother's house?" I nodded. "He's quite upset with you, actually. He was the one who first spotted you and Natalia together last Thanksgiving. He didn't tell me immediately he confronted you first. You promised him it was nothing, that you would end it. When he realized you hadn't, he came to me. This was another blow he hadn't anticipated. Lucas and I had always been close, but Marcus never imagined his own brother would choose my side. Everyone's betraying me, he muttered. Ironic, isn't it? I gathered my purse and a small overnight bag I'd packed earlier. You have until tomorrow evening to remove your things. After that, the locks will be changed. As I headed toward the door, Marcus called after me, desperation in his voice. What about Sophia? Have you thought about how this affects her? I paused, anger finally breaking through my calm facade. Don't you dare use our daughter as a shield, Marcus. You certainly weren't thinking about her when you were planning your new life with Natalia. His phone buzzed again. This time he looked at it and groaned. Problem? I asked. Natalia is at the apartment already. She's moved her things in. I couldn't help but smile. The apartment you put in both your names? The lease you signed last month? Marcus nodded, looking confused. You might want to check with the leasing office. That application was flagged for credit issues and never completed. The agent called our home phone to verify information. I handled it myself. I walked out the door, leaving Marcus to face the first of many consequences. His perfectly planned new life was unraveling faster than he could process. Lucas lived in a cozy townhouse near the university where he taught economics. When I arrived, he greeted me with a fierce hug. I just heard from Sophia, he said, pulling me inside. Are you okay? I'm better than I expected, I admitted, following him to the kitchen where a bottle of wine was already open. I never thought Marcus would make such a spectacle, Lucas said, pouring the glasses. At the restaurant, in front of everyone. He's lost his mind. It was meant to humiliate me, I explained, accepting the glass. A public rejection, so I couldn't fight back without looking hysterical. Lucas's face darkened. My brother always did have a flair for drama, but this is beyond anything I expected from him. We settled in his study, surrounded by bookshelves and the faint scent of leather. Lucas had never married, preferring his independence and academic career. Over the years, I'd sometimes envied his freedom. What did you put in that envelope that upset him so much? He asked. I explained the contents, the divorce filing, the evidence of financial deception, and most importantly, the prenuptial agreement that would leave Marcus with far less than he'd planned. The prenup, Lucas said, amused. I remember when he insisted on it. Our father had just given him that inheritance and he was so worried about protecting it. He laughed bitterly. The irony is delicious. My phone rang. Sophia. I took a deep breath before answering. Mom, she said immediately, her voice strained. I'm coming over to Uncle Lucas's. Honey, you don't have to, I'm already on my way. She interrupted. Dad is telling everyone you've lost your mind, that you've been planning this for months. He's saying horrible things. Of course, he was. Marcus always rewrote narratives to cast himself as the victim. Let him talk, I said. The truth will become clear soon enough. 20 minutes later, Sophia arrived, still in her birthday dress, but with her makeup smudged from crying. She fell into my arms like she used to as a child after a nightmare. Why didn't you tell me? She asked, her voice muffled against my shoulder. I didn't want to ruin your special year, I explained. You've been so happy lately. She pulled back, wiping her eyes. Well, Dad took care of ruining it anyway. We moved to Lucas's living room where Sophia finally got the full story, how I'd discovered the affair, the financial deceptions, and the plans Marcus and Natalia had made. I knew something was off with Dad, Sophia admitted. He's been different, distracted, always on his phone, but I never imagined. None of us want to see these things in people we love, Lucas said gently. My phone buzzed with a text from my attorney, Rebecca Cho. The emergency filing had been approved. The accounts I'd identified were frozen pending divorce proceedings. Marcus now had limited access to funds, enough for living expenses but not enough to follow through on the property purchases he'd planned with Natalia. I showed the message to Lucas and Sophia. Good, Sophia said firmly. He deserves it. My daughter's loyalty warmed me, but I wasn't naive. He's still your father, I reminded her. Your relationship with him is separate from what's happening between us. Sophia shook her head. Maybe someday, but right now I can't even look at him. He hugged me this morning and told me how proud he was, all while planning to blow up our family. Hours later, the doorbell rang, interrupting our conversation. Lucas went to answer it, returning moments later with a troubled expression. It's Marcus, he said, and he's not alone. I steeled myself as Lucas led Marcus and Natalia into the living room. Natalia looked uncomfortable. shifting her weight from one foot to the other. She was 35, not exactly a trophy wife, but still 17 years my junior, with highlighted blonde hair and the kind of confidence that comes from never having faced real adversity. Marcus, by contrast, looked furious. His earlier desperation had hardened into anger. "Evelyn, you need to stop this insanity," he demanded. "Unfreeze the accounts. We can discuss this like reasonable adults." Sophia stood up, placing herself slightly in front of me. "Maybe you should have tried being reasonable before announcing to everyone that you were leaving, Mom." Marcus's eyes widened as if just noticing our daughter. "This doesn't involve you." "Doesn't involve me?" she echoed incredulously. "You blew up our family on my birthday and it doesn't involve me?" Natalia touched Marcus's arm. "Marcus, maybe we should go." He shook her off. "No, I'm not leaving until Evelyn agrees to be rational about this." Lucas folded his arms. "My sister-in-law seems to be the only rational person in this scenario. You're the one who created this mess, Marcus." I remained seated, watching the drama unfold. For years I had been the peacemaker, the one who smoothed over conflicts and kept everyone happy. That role was exhausting, and I had finally set it down. "The accounts will remain frozen until the preliminary hearing," I said calmly. "That's in 3 days. The judge will determine appropriate asset division at that time." 3 days? Marcus sputtered. "What am I supposed to do for 3 days?" "You have your personal account," I reminded him. "The one you've been funneling money into for the past year. That should be sufficient." Natalia's head whipped toward Marcus. "You have a separate account? With how much in it?" An interesting dynamic was emerging. Clearly, Marcus hadn't been entirely forthcoming with Natalia either. Marcus ignored her question. "This is vindictive, Evelyn. This isn't like you." "Perhaps you never really knew me," I replied, "just as I apparently never really knew you." Sophia turned to Natalia. "Did you know he was going to announce it like that at my birthday party?" Natalia had the decency to look ashamed. I thought he was going to talk to your mother privately." "The announcement today was unexpected." Marcus shot her a betrayed look. "Cracks were already forming in their united front." "I think you both should leave," Lucas said firmly. "You've upset Sophia enough for one day." "Sophia," Marcus pleaded, "you understand that relationships change, don't you? Sometimes people grow apart." My daughter's face hardened in a way I had never seen before. "What I understand is that you're a coward who couldn't even give Mom the dignity of a private conversation. What I understand is that you were stealing from our family while telling me you couldn't help with my tuition because money was tight." Marcus paled. "That's not how it was." "It's exactly how it was." Sophia cut him off. "Please leave, Dad. I can't look at you right now." The silence that followed was deafening. Finally, Marcus turned to go, Natalia trailing behind him. At the door, he paused and looked back at me. "This isn't over, Evelyn. I'll fight you on this." I met his gaze steadily. "You're welcome to try." After they left, Sophia collapsed next to me on the sofa, tears streaming down her face. "I've never talked to Dad like that." I wrapped my arm around her shoulders. "Sometimes standing up for what's right is painful." Lucas brought us fresh glasses of wine. "To new beginnings," he said, raising his glass. Indeed, I thought. This ending was just the beginning of something new. The preliminary hearing took place in a small courtroom on a rainy Tuesday morning. I arrived with my attorney Rebecca, while Marcus came with a lawyer he'd hastily retained, a young associate from a firm that specialized in corporate law, not family matters. The judge, an older woman with sharp eyes and no patience for dramatics, reviewed the prenuptial agreement carefully. "This document appears to be in order," she said, looking over her reading glasses at Marcus's attorney. "Do you contest its validity?" The young lawyer cleared his throat. "Your Honor, we believe the agreement has expired due to the length of the marriage. Section 14 clearly states that the duration is for the term of the marriage plus any legal proceedings resulting from its dissolution," the judge read aloud. "There is no expiration date indicated." Marcus leaned forward to whisper urgently to his lawyer, who looked increasingly uncomfortable. Furthermore, the judge continued, "The evidence of systematic fund transfers appears to violate the financial disclosure requirements in Section 23. She shuffled through the papers, then looked up. "I am ruling to maintain the freeze on joint accounts pending full financial discovery. Mr. Sinclair's personal account will remain accessible to him. The family home will remain in Mrs. Sinclair's possession during proceedings as stipulated in the prenuptial agreement's infidelity clause." Marcus's face flushed dark red. "This is outrageous," he muttered, loud enough for me to hear. The judge fixed him with a stern look. "Mr. Sinclair, I suggest you review the agreement you signed more carefully. This court will reconvene in 30 days for the full hearing after discovery is complete." As we left the courtroom, Marcus caught up to me in the hallway. "Evelyn, please. We need to talk about this reasonably. 25 years together has to count for something. It counted for everything," I replied, "until you decided it didn't." I walked away, leaving him standing alone in the courthouse corridor, the weight of his choices finally beginning to sink in. Word spread quickly through our social circle. Friends called daily, some offering support, others seeking gossip. I maintained a dignified silence about the details, simply saying, "Marcus and I are separating. These things happen." Meanwhile, Marcus's carefully constructed facade was crumbling. The financial freeze meant he couldn't follow through on promises made to Natalia. The beachfront property they'd been planning to purchase fell through. The luxury car he'd put a deposit on had to be canceled. 2 weeks after the hearing, Lucas called me, his voice tinged with amusement. "Have you heard the latest? Natalia moved out already." I wasn't entirely surprised, but the speed was impressive. Apparently she discovered Marcus's business isn't doing as well as he claimed. The substantial savings he talked about don't exist. She told her friend Claire that she didn't sign up to date a man with financial problems. I couldn't help but laugh. He always was good at creating illusions. Meanwhile, I was rebuilding the financial security I'd always maintained. Separate from our joint accounts, I had savings Marcus hadn't anticipated. I rented a small office downtown and began setting up the investment firm I'd dreamed about for years. My first clients were 2 women going through divorces of their own. Word of mouth brought more. I specialized in helping women understand their finances during major life transitions, divorces, widowhood, career changes. The work was immediately fulfilling in a way my corporate job never had been. Sophia, who had accepted a job with an advertising agency in Chicago, called me regularly. "I'm so proud of you, Mom," she told me after I described my growing client list. "You're helping people during their worst moments." "I'm just doing what I wish someone had done for me earlier," I replied. The final divorce hearing fell on what would have been our 26th anniversary, a fitting end to a chapter of my life that had lasted a quarter century. Marcus arrived looking haggard. I later learned his business was struggling without my financial support and guidance. Natalia was long gone, already dating a real estate developer from Miami. Most of our mutual friends had distanced themselves from him after learning the full story of his deception. The judge upheld the prenuptial agreement in its entirety. Marcus, left with his personal possessions, his struggling business, and the money in his private account, which, after paying his attorney, was barely enough to secure a small apartment. I retained our home, my retirement accounts, and 70% of our joint investments, exactly as the prenuptial agreement stipulated in cases of infidelity. The justice was poetic. The very document Marcus had insisted upon to protect himself had become his downfall. As we left the courtroom, Marcus approached me one last time. "I made a terrible mistake," he said quietly. "Is there any chance we could?" "No," I interrupted, gentle but firm. "That door is closed." "I understand," he replied. And for once, I believed he did. "I hope you find happiness, Evelyn. You deserve it." It was perhaps the first honest thing he'd said to me in years. 6 months later, my firm, Sinclair Financial Strategies, was thriving. I'd moved from the small office to a larger space and hired 2 associates. I specialized in helping women secure their financial futures, particularly through major life changes. Sophia visited often, proud of what I'd built. "You know what's ironic?" she said during one visit. "If Dad had just been honest from the beginning, he might have kept half of everything." "Sometimes people can't see beyond what they want in the moment," I replied. The woman who had once defined herself as Marcus's wife and Sophia's mother had discovered a new identity: mentor, business owner, and advocate. The envelope I'd handed Marcus at the restaurant hadn't just been my escape plan, it had been the key to a door I never knew existed. Behind it, I found not just revenge, but reinvention. In securing my financial future, I had also reclaimed something far more valuable: myself.